Welcome back to another special episode of Andrew Says. They're special every single time. You know that. Lawyer, rapper, writer, Patriot J is with me. How are you, dude?
Greetings, sir. I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing so well. There's so much great stuff going on in the world right now, isn't there? America's doing great.
Always got to look at that bright side.
Yeah, exactly. Where are you at right now?
I am in beautiful Los Angeles, California.
Oh, it's always a good time out there. I know there's a new DA coming to San Francisco. They've had enough of the George Soros DA, I believe.
Yeah, I think they're trying to get the LA DA out of here next, Mr. Gascon.
Yeah, but I get worried about that sort of stuff because just like in England, they're getting rid of Boris Johnson or he's resigning. Will they bring in somebody who's just more compliant? I don't know how I trust the same system that put these people in to put in somebody better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, from what I've seen, it feels like it's a backlash against Gascon and the Soros-funded DAs. These guys are super soft on crime. They let people go for as stuff as high as robbery, assault. They just let them walk free. So I think people of Los Angeles are just really upset with that. The streets are getting dirty. You know, if you look at the mayor's race, Rick Caruso's doing really well. He's not your average Democrat politician. I think he used to be a Republican up until when he decided to run.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about, because we always talk about Biden, I feel like, when we're together, and the Hunter Biden laptop story. Have you seen the new stuff that came out over the last couple of days?
Dude, it's hard to not see it. I saw a clip of him sliding down this pool thing naked. It was the weirdest thing. Or the video of him weighing the crack with his hookers. This guy's he's a degenerate for sure.
He's always naked for some reason. I don't understand.
Right.
Every time he's naked, he's videotaping himself. Do you think he's so, used to not getting in trouble for anything that he's just doing it to flaunt? Or do you think he's just, insane, I guess, insane with power or money?
I genuinely feel like that's probably just the way he is. You know, you grow up in this kind of family. You've got the power, like you said. You have the money. So you just YOLO it.
One of the things I always hear, and even when I talk about it on my shows, and even people from the right wing, they say, well, why do we care? Why do we just care about this guy with a drug problem? I know what my answer would be. Do you have an answer to that? Do you think people should care for any particular reason?
Well, for one, his father is the president, and this guy has all these foreign business deals with, I don't know, China, Ukraine, stuff like that. So there's some clear case of conflict of interest, and the Biden family ran on bringing decency back to the office. How can you bring decency back to the office when you have a porn addicted crackhead at the front greeting everybody at the White House Medal of Freedom ceremony?
Yeah, I was watching some throwback video coverage of when the story broke in 2020 today, and they were talking about how it's a conspiracy, and of course you go back to the debates, and Joe Biden's talking about how it's just more Russian disinformation. One guy from, I think, MSNBC said, just a ridiculous story that you would think that some drunken Hunter Biden would go and drop off his laptop at, a QAnon repair shop? And it's just it's so beyond belief somehow for these people that it would be believable if it was, Eric Trump or something, or Don Trump Jr. hunting. That's the worst thing in the world for them. But they can't seem to think about it for Joe Biden. I don't understand why.
The funniest thing is they believe the most fabricated stuff about the Trump family, too. Like, if you tell them Donald Trump tried to commandeer the presidential SUV on January 6th, they'll be like, oh, that's yeah, it totally happened. But if you say, oh, this guy with these drug problems who doesn't like his father clearly has something out against him, they say, no, you're crazy.
I loved that story, too. And what they do with these hearings in the committee, they call it a January 6th committee because it's not a real hearing. It's just a bunch of people they've selected to talk about it. Really, it's just a show that they put on. Doesn't have any bearing on anything. It's their own investigation, and they're interviewing their own people for whatever they want. And they don't have to answer to anything because I don't think it's technically under oath by anything. So this woman could come up and say this is what she heard. She doesn't want to incriminate herself in any way, I guess. But the idea of Trump reaching from the back seat and grabbing the steering wheel, and then the guy just going, "No, Mr. President, we're going home. We're not going back." It's just, they say everything, and there's always some contingency of people that believe it. And it's the old saying, I think, like the original tweet gets way more shares than the retraction retweet. So I think all they have to do is put it out there, and that's the damage done, whether it's truthful or not. And I see this stuff with Hunter Biden, and it seems like no matter how much stuff comes out about him, it will never get covered in the news for some reason.
It's you hit the nail on the head with the January 6th thing. It's totally a show trial. But because people watch it on TV, they think there's some sort of legitimacy behind it. So I get calls from my family member. They're like, "Oh, did you watch the Trump hearings? He's going down." And it's like, they can't even send anybody to jail. This is not a criminal court. You don't have any evidentiary standards. It's just a show to make the Democrats look good for their base. It's essentially the third impeachment of Donald Trump.
Well, I don't see how anyone can, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't see how anybody can doubt now that just straight up the Biden administration is just not doing a good job. You can say what you wanted about Trump, but there weren't many things that you could just directly point to that as a result of his policies, I mean, somebody can try to correct me if I'm wrong, that stand out so much is his, manipulation of the oil reserves, for example, is what I was going to bring up. The economy as a whole, of course, but the oil reserves where they take out, what's it called again? The strategic reserve is the word I'm looking for. They take out more oil to try to lower the gas prices than I think they have since the Gulf War, if I'm not mistaken. There might have been another event where they took out more. And so it's already gone down, depleted more than it usually is in the past 30 years. But then they take out another 100 million, I think it was, and then it turns out that they're selling it to foreign countries. So the oil that's supposed to be released to lower the prices in America, the government is actually just using that oil to sell it for profit. So I don't understand how when they say, it's up to the oil companies and Joe Biden wants the gas station vendors to lower their prices on their own, and then he's just out there selling stuff for the government's profit. Do I have most of that correct, do you think?
Yeah, you totally do. You left out one important fact, though. They're not just selling it to any foreign governments. They're selling it to foreign governments that have ties to Hunter Biden. Mm-hmm. President Biden sold, I believe, nearly 1 million barrels of oil to this company, Sinopec, I think is the name. And that company it got some seed money or some sort of financial contribution from Hunter Biden's investment firm. So people are like, well, why do we care about Hunter Biden? His father's selling oil to his invested companies. We should totally care about that.
Yeah, and it's like you can't touch the Ukraine stuff anymore when just a couple of years ago, everybody was talking about Hunter Biden and Burisma and all this stuff that's going on, all the corruption that's going on in Ukraine. And now I feel like people would get, even on the right, who don't want to touch the Ukraine topic, they would probably not get a fair shake of it if they started going after, well, let's start investigating about the money that's going into Ukraine, even if it's being used corruptly. And I have written down that there's this new $1.7 billion going to Ukraine, which has totaled over $4 billion to that country now. It's supposed to be to pay the salaries of hospital workers, but how do you feel about this whole Ukraine situation? I don't think we've talked about that. Do you think it's, worthy cause, unworthy cause, corruption, either way? How do you feel about it?
Honestly, the way I look at it is it's none of my business. We need to take care of Americans first. We're not in a position to be worried about what Putin is doing in Eastern Europe or over there. It's just pointless when we have people who can't afford to pay gas, they can't afford to buy groceries, they can't afford rent, and we're over here giving away money to a foreign country that, for one, is very racist. They told the Black Peace Corps volunteers to be aware that the Ukrainians might call them the N-word. They're also prominent Nazi imagery from all of their soldiers, so it just doesn't seem like our fight.
Yeah, and even if you're giving them this massive benefit of the doubt that they sold the oil to the Chinese company for some reason that benefits America, if you need this money so desperately, then why are you giving away another $1.7 billion to another country? I think the positioning on that is, if we don't stop Putin now, we're never going to be able to stop him at all. And I don't think I agree with that. But you still talk to these supporters, not myself personally, but I was watching an Elon video yesterday, and he's asking people in the streets of New York, the same supporters that keep coming out, sometimes with the Azov battalion flags, I should point out, and asking if they should call for a ceasefire now, or at least try to end the war in some way, and they all say no. Well, at least the ones that I saw say no. They want to try to finish the war. They want to try to defeat Putin and kill Putin. But the thing is, they can't do that without other countries helping them. And I'm kind of confused as to why another country thinks that it's the rest of the world's obligation to fight this very specific conflict for them. But I guess if you really think that, like, Putin is Hitler or something, you would call on the rest of the world. But I don't think that's how anybody else sees it, do they?
Yeah, it's just a lot of people who have bought into the Democrat propaganda, I guess, against Putin. They see him as basically Hitler, so of course they're going to kind of want to defeat that. But like you said, it's just not our issue. It's not our right to fight for Ukraine. They can do that themselves.
There was a video, Efron, do you know which video I'm talking about? Zelensky was complaining about Canada the other day. Do you know what I'm talking about, Efron? Yeah, there's some video in the middle of a war, of course. President Zelensky sent something. He has a problem with Canada not giving him enough support. I believe we sold something that was Russian to the Germans, or gave it back to the Germans where we got it from. Is that what it is? We got that there, Efron? Okay, let's play this. I want to see what this is.
Українці, українки, всі наші захисники і захисниці. Сьогодні був непростий день. По-перше, Міністерству закордонних справ довелося викликати представника Канади у нашій державі через абсолютно неприйнятний виняток із санкційного режиму проти Росії. Це стосується не просто якоїсь турбіни для газопроводу «Північний потік», яку Канада не повинна була, але все ж таки вирішила передати фактично Росії. Це стосується спільних правил. Якщо держава-терорист може витиснути такий виняток у санкціях, то яких винятків вона захоче завтра чи післязавтра? Це питання дуже небезпечне. Причому небезпечне не тільки для України, а для усіх країн демократичного світу. Рішення про санкційний виняток будуть сприймати в Москві виключно як прояв слабкості. Така їхня логіка. І якраз тепер можна не сумніватися, що Росія спробує не просто максимально обмежити, а таки повністю припинити у найбільш гострий момент постачання газу в Європу. Саме до цього тепер треба готуватись, саме це тепер провокується. Бо кожна поступка в таких умовах сприймається російським керівництвом як стимул для подальшого сильнішого тиску. Звичайно, ще можна переглянути це рішення про...
It's like he's almost bullying other countries into, like, he's always giving these speeches at different events and different parliaments and government hearings, and it's almost like he's shaming them into not doing the right thing. Do you get that feeling?
Yeah, dude, he's like the epitome of the modern American leftist right now. They just try to bully you into submission. They try to gaslight you. They say, "Hey, why aren't you supporting this? You must hate me." And that's exactly that's the tactics that he's using on a national stage. And he's got the backing of what looks like Hollywood, all these actors and these incredible productions. I don't understand how he's making these 4K productions in the middle of a war.
Well, there's a lot of people that are going over there. Was it Sean Penn, of course, that went over there? He wants to shoot a documentary. I'm sure he's willing to help him out. But yeah, it doesn't seem like there'd be time for this, of just, lecturing Justin Trudeau, who I'm sure only takes lectures like that from China at this point. Did you see that video that came out today? I'm not sure if it was happening today, of the Senator Hawley talking to, what was her job, Efron? He's talking
the law professor lady, right?
Yeah, the professor from Berkeley. Yeah, let's play
pregnancy.
some of this. Yeah, I love this.
Oh goodness!
Thanks, Efron.
Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also
Equal
trans men
numbers.
who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing them.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
Because of
for
my
us-
line of questioning? So
Because-
we can't talk about it?
Because denying that trans people exist and pretending not to know that they exist
I'm
is
denying that trans
dangerous.
people exist by
Are
asking
you?
you if you're
Are
talking
you?
about women
Are you?
having pregnancies?
Do you believe that men can
you?
get pregnant?
No, I don't think women can get
So you are
pregnant.
denying that trans people exist? Thank
And that leads to
Oh.
violence? Is this how you run your classroom? Are students allowed to question you? Or are they
Absolutely.
also treated like this, where
No,
they're
they're
told
allowed
that
to
they're
question.
opening up people to
Oh,
violence
we have a good
by
time in my
questioning?
class. You should join.
Oh, I bet.
You might learn a lot.
Wow, I would learn a lot. I've learned a lot
I
just in this
know,
exchange.
absolutely.
Extraordinary.
Yep.
That's, I don't understand, Jordan. Please tell me. Saying that men can't get pregnant is pretending that trans people don't exist is her point here, and saying that they can't, it's like she's so arrogant in her. She's not willing to say that it's only women that can get pregnant. So if you
Professor
disagree with
Bridges,
her,
you-
if you disagree with her, then you must be saying that they don't exist somehow.
I just don't understand these people. I am so lost at how millions of Americans got brainwashed into this gender ideology nonsense where it doesn't matter, men can be pregnant. It makes no sense, and it's a slap in the face to the entire line of human existence. But she did the Zelensky tactic. She deflected. She said, are you transphobic? And then she went on with her point.
Well, another point is that she's saying, well, words are violence now is a thing that we've heard for a couple of years now, but also they conflate the word violence with suicide. Yes, suicide would be violent inherently, but the way they always word that you're putting people's lives at risk, you're committing violence against them. It's actually them committing violence against themselves is her point. And so it's very weird. And to argue that the reason that there's such a high propensity, I think is the word, of suicide amongst trans people is because they're bullied. I don't know if I see that, because every single corporation and government is flying a trans flag in the Western world. Every company is saying how amazing it is to be a transgender or to be a cross-dresser or something from that like. But yet it's still not enough. You have to go with this statistical anomaly that she's saying where, oh yes, most women can get pregnant, but there's many women can get pregnant, but also many women can't. Well, yeah, I guess that's true, but it's probably over 90% of women can get pregnant, I'd have to imagine. And the amount of people that make up for the portion of transgender and non-binary people, I mean, they're still biologically women, and she can't. It's just the arrogance, I guess, that gets me riled up the most, I think.
Yeah, they just think that it's their way or the highway, and they think you're a bigot if you disagree with them and agree with science. These are the same people who want us to trust the science, but they can't even trust the science themselves.
Well, I keep asking people who are out in California. I think I asked James Klug last. Do you think it's getting better, or do you think it's getting worse in terms of the extremeness of people's ideology out there?
I'd say it's getting a little bit better. I think the peak might have been like the first couple years of the Trump administration. That's when things were super insane. I was on college campus during those years too, so it was in your face everywhere. All the gender ideology, all the white supremacy, the anti-American rhetoric, basically CRT with a little bit of BLM and FAG. So I think we're kind of moving past that, and I think people are now just starting to come back to their senses. they're starting to have a debate about it a little bit, because one side has been so dominant for so long, and people have kind of remained silent, but people are actually speaking up against it now. That's what I've seen.
Have you thought about moving? Are you going to stick it out for the long haul there, or do you plan to move?
Yeah, dude, I'm going to make California great again. It's too beautiful of a state to just completely abandon it.
Well, I know you used to intern or something like that for, was it a congressman or a House member? Are you? Yeah. Are you going to go into politics again, or would you rather stay out of the actual system of it?
Right now I'm staying out. It's I don't know. The current state of things just seem very phony.
Yeah.
Dare I say rigged?
Dare you say? Well, what I'm thinking is a lot of people, this mentality that you got to stay and fight. A lot of people aren't doing that, and a lot of people are going to Florida and Texas, and people still say that Texas could turn blue. I'm not sure how much I believe that, but do you think that there's hope for other places other than, these other states? Like, what I'm trying to get at is, do you think we see like some sort of red wave come back? Do you think we see some sort of like Trump numbers come back? I get that it was, certain vote places in certain states, but do you think that we go all the way back in the other direction, or do you think that like the people who voted for Biden, all 800 billion of them, do you think they're going to remain dug in? Like, do you think we're going to see a big shift quickly, or do you think it's going to slowly happen over time? I'm thinking that if it happens, it's going to happen quickly, because something is going to come out one of these days. And I think I know what it is, but I don't want to say. But something's going to come out one of these days where Joe Biden can no longer run, or Kamala Harris, whether it's business or something else, corruption. And I think people are going to have to, wake up and smell the coffee, or else they're going to be doomed for, like, the TV told me so for the rest of their lives. Does that matter? Do you think it's going to be slow or quick?
I definitely think it's going to happen, and I would say as soon as 2024. I think it's just the nature of politics. Things always go back and forth. And we've gone so far left now that I think it's kind of waking up people in the middle who are apolitical, and then it's energizing people who are further right. So I think we're going to come back. I think it'll be a very strong comeback, and that's what I'm hoping for, at least. I hope for the same in 2020, so who knows?
Well, what do you think that looks like, though? Do you think that looks like Trump? Because if it's Trump, I feel like it'll be almost the same thing, unless you think that like his base can push him, away from being a big pharma guy or being a guy who prints a ton of money. Like the amount of mistakes that he had, I don't think were that many, but they're noticeable once it was all said and done, that you can point back to, like what I just said. Do you think he can be pushed in a further reasonable, I'll say, direction where he's not taking these cues from some of these bigger businesses? Or do you think it takes somebody else, maybe DeSantis or somebody even, more, I don't want to use the words like extreme or further right, but like more steadfast in their beliefs?
Yeah. What I think, honestly, is that it might take Trump to become a little more moderate, because as upset as the base might be for some of the vaccine-related stuff, if the choice is between like Kamala or Trump, they're going to vote for Trump. So the battle for him is trying to kind of get the people who are in the middle, the people who were like super anti-Trump, just appealing to them with common sense rhetoric, maybe toning it down a little bit, but who knows?
Well, it can't be Joe Biden. Like, every time they're asked, they say he's running, but the guy can't read the teleprompter. And I noticed today that they changed. This was a story. They changed the transcript for when he said, "End of quote, repeat the line." They changed it to say, "Now I'll repeat the line," or something like that. Efron, can you find that?
Let me repeat the line.
Yeah, that's what it says. Never mind. It says, "Let me repeat the line," even though he's clearly just saying, and that kind of shows you that he's just reading whatever's there in the same like tone. He could have said like, "Let me get you fries with that," and he would have said it in the exact same tone. And
welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger.
How can I help you? Yeah, just play it anyways, Efron. Let's just play it if anyone hasn't seen it.
It is noteworthy that the percentage of women who register to vote and cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line. Women are not without electoral and or political, or maybe precise, not and or political power. That's another way of saying that you, the women of America, can determine the outcome of this issue. I don't think the court, or for that matter, the Republicans, power.
I like how, in order to try to recover from his stumble, he says, no, let me be precise and just read what I was going to read anyways. But yeah, repeat the line. He was going to say, no matter what it was, he's going to say it that way. And he's just a script reader at this point. Like, I don't think even at this point, probably going back to like his weird 70s clips about busing and stuff. I don't know how much of that you've seen. I'd imagine you've seen all that, right?
Yeah, totally.
Where he's sitting in front of like a bookcase and he's just like, I don't think that we should be busing in black students to the inner cities or from the inner cities to nicer schools, because when they get home they're going to be jealous and angry at the white kids who are having a better life than them. And it's just like crazy stuff from that. And maybe people aren't familiar with all the stuff he did with segregationists. Are you familiar with those things?
Yeah, he was buddy with all the segregationists in Congress, because he's been in office
for 100 years. Yeah,
50 million years.
Well, I know the one was the last person to run as a Dixiecrat, and he got along with them, and he said it was a person you could just agree to disagree with. If it's a person with a Dixiecrat, I'm fairly certain you don't have to like be cordial. Like, you can just not be mean, but like if a person's a neo-Nazi, you don't really need to be like, well, he's pretty reasonable and I think that we can talk to him. And then another one was a guy who was a segregationist who said that who was good friends with Biden. They got along. He said he was very funny, I believe. And one of the quotes was that he told Joe Biden that I'll run against you or I'll run alongside you, whichever one helps you the most where you're trying to win. So it's just, a guy who's that old just being like, well, yeah, I got along with some racist people, so what? It doesn't change my mind at all. And then you got the you ain't black if you don't vote for me. Rich kids are poor kids are just as smart as white kids, wasn't it? Oh my God, it's just so many things, and you just watch him up there. And
Can we talk about his wife though? Comparing Hispanic people to tacos.
Yeah, let's find that out. I haven't seen the clip yet.
I've never had a breakfast taco before.
I know breakfast burritos exist, and as a fan of Taco Bell, or former fan of Taco Bell, since I can't get along with their Pride ad campaign, it was too much. It was just like nudity and trans dudes eating tacos.
Don't ruin Taco Bell for me.
It's my favorite thing ever. And then I'm just sitting there watching TV, and I got an American feed on my cable system, and it's two lesbians doing like a weird like seance, like they've got candles around them and they're holding a taco and making out. Then it cuts to just like a transgender guy just changing all his clothes and writhing around like this and then eating a taco. I'm just like, what percentage of people are you trying to appeal to? And because they're probably slobs like me eating Taco Bell.
Right.
I don't want to see that. And like, it's just unnecessary. Okay, let's see what she had to say. I haven't seen this yet.
But we can't get those things on our own. Raul helped build this organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
Very low
Is
rumble from here. Rewind that, everyone. Did she say bodegas? And because she doesn't know what a bodega is, play that again just for a second.
But we can't get those things on our own. Raul helped build this organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx,
right? Okay.
Distinct as the Bogotas of the
Bogotas.
Bronx.
Is that something different? Bogotas? Efron, you speak Spanish.
Yeah, I've never been to a Bogota before.
Okay.
Maybe she was talking about what is it? Bogota, Colombia? Bogota, Colombia?
No, I don't think so. So what Hispanic? And I'm guessing that's some sort of union that's Hispanic or something. So the diversity of these people is boiled down to bodegas in New York City, some flowers in Miami, and breakfast tacos. That's what you guys are bringing to the table, according to Jill Biden. No wonder Hunter Biden doesn't like her. Did you see those texts? It was like,
Yes.
I hate you so much, and the most I can ask for is you just leave me alone, basically. And then he's allegedly, of course, texting someone he's labeled as Jill, as asking if she wants him dead, and she's trying to kill him and stuff. It's just wild, wild stuff.
Jill and pedo Peter.
Yeah, that's right. And there's every time, and he calls him Pop. Whoever text messages that number calls him Pop, and it's just you're backing up like 300 gigs or whatever it is to your iCloud. And just uncheck the box, dude. It's too much. But I guess he just doesn't care. I guess he just doesn't care. Let's go behind the paywall for one more segment. I want to ask you about music, and you guys can get the extra segment along with all the extra segments at rebelnewsplus.com. It's cheaper than Amazon. It's cheaper than Netflix. It's cheaper than DoorDash, everybody. One meal, less than probably a thing of fries from DoorDash. rebelnewsplus.com. We'll see you there. Thanks for watching another episode of Andrew Says. To get the full version of the show with bonus segments, go to rebelnewsplus.com and sign up now.